She thought it would be a calm drive, a quiet talk, one last chance to fix a broken marriage. But when Alyssa reached for her phone, Nathan locked eyes with her, cold, empty, and said, "You're not walking away from me." Then he opened her door and pushed. "You are welcome to my YouTube channel. If you love deep stories that hit the heart and keep you on the edge of your seat, you're in the right place. Please subscribe and turn on the bell, because I'll be dropping another powerful story tomorrow. And trust me, you won't want to miss it. Thanks for being here. God bless you." The sun peeked through the window blinds of a quiet home in Jackson, Mississippi. The street outside was peaceful, but inside that house, everything was falling apart. Alyssa Crow sat on the edge of her bed, staring at her wedding photo on the nightstand. Her skin was warm brown, her curls messy from another sleepless night. Her eyes were heavy, not just from lack of sleep, but from the weight of 5 years of pretending. She touched the photo frame gently. In it, Nathan Crow had been smiling wide, holding her close. Back then, his blue eyes looked at her like she was his whole world. But now he barely looked at her at all. Alyssa sighed. She could still smell the strange perfume on his shirt from last night, sweet, floral, and definitely not hers. She'd asked him once, gently, if he was cheating. He shouted, slammed the table, said she was crazy. But she wasn't. The message she saw last week was still stuck in her head. Last night was amazing. Same time tonight. It had flashed on Nathan's screen while he was in the shower. The sender's name said Mike, but Alyssa wasn't a fool. She knew what she saw. No man calls another man amazing after a night together. Not like that. The message was from a woman. A woman Nathan was seeing behind her back. But even worse than the cheating was how cold he had become. He used to call her queen. Now, she felt like a stranger in her own home. As she rose from the bed, Alyssa walked into the kitchen. Nathan was already there, dressed in black slacks and a white button-up, sipping his coffee like nothing was wrong. "Morning," she said softly. He didn't reply. She tried again. "You came home late last night." He took another sip of his coffee. "I was out." "Out where?" "With the guys." "Which guys?" Nathan's jaw tightened. He looked at her like she was a bug he was too tired to squash. "Stop interrogating me," he said coldly. "I'm not interrogating you," she replied, her voice low. "I'm your wife, Nathan. I have the right to ask where you've been." Nathan stood. He walked past her toward the hallway, but stopped halfway and turned back. "If you don't like the way I live," he said, "you can leave." Her chest tightened. Those words came fast. Too fast. So she asked, "Is that what you want?" He stared at her for a long moment. Then he said, "I don't care what you do." She said nothing. Just stood there as he grabbed his keys and walked out the door like she didn't exist. That night, Alyssa cried in the shower. But the tears weren't from sadness anymore. They were from anger. Her mother had told her never to beg a man to love her. And here she was, begging with her silence. Holding on to a marriage that didn't even hold her back. Something snapped inside her. She dried off, dressed, and walked straight to her small bookshelf. Behind some old college textbooks, she pulled out her hidden folder. Inside was everything she had collected over the past few weeks. Printed text messages. Phone records. Even a blurry photo of Nathan hugging a woman outside a club. She had been preparing, quietly, secretly, waiting for the right time. And now she has made up her mind. She picked up her phone and called the only person she could trust, Jeremy Crow, Nathan's cousin. Jeremy was calm, kind, and always had a listening ear. When Nathan cheated on his last girlfriend years ago, Jeremy was the one who had warned her. He never liked Nathan's arrogance. "Jeremy," Alyssa said, her voice shaking. "I need to talk to you. About Nathan." There was silence for a moment. Then Jeremy said, I'm listening. The next day, Nathan was different. Too different. He smiled at her, made her coffee, said they should go for a drive. Maybe we should talk, he said. Maybe clear the air. Alyssa blinked. Has he changed? Was this an apology? She hesitated. Something inside her said no, but her heart said maybe. So she said yes, and got into the car with a man who no longer loved her. A man who had already made up his mind about how this drive would end. Alyssa sat in the passenger seat, her hands folded tightly in her lap. Nathan's black SUV rolled out of their quiet neighborhood, tires humming softly against the road. The sun was beginning to set, spreading a warm orange glow across the sky. Trees rushed past in blurs. The air was calm outside, but inside the car, it was heavy. Too heavy. Nathan hadn't said a word since they left the house. He looked straight ahead, his jaw tight, both hands gripping the wheel. His knuckles were white. Alyssa kept glancing at him. She didn't feel safe. She didn't feel like this was a normal drive. She wanted to speak, but the words caught in her throat. So instead, she reached for the door handle, quietly, just to see if it was locked. Click. It didn't budge. Nathan noticed. You think I'm going to hurt you, he said, not looking at her. Alyssa's heart jumped. I didn't say that, she replied softly. But you thought about it. Silence filled the car again. He turned up the music slightly. Just a low beat. Then he turned it back down. Why did you call Jeremy? He asked suddenly. Alyssa froze. What? You heard me. Her hands started to shake. I just needed someone to talk to, she said. You went behind my back, Nathan said, his voice low and sharp. Telling people I'm cheating. Making me look like the bad guy. I didn't make you look like anything, she said. You did that yourself. Nathan's jaw clenched. The muscle in his cheek twitched. His right hand gripped the steering wheel even harder. You think you're so perfect, he muttered. Always acting like you're better than me. Smarter. Stronger. Like I'm some monster. I never said you were a monster, she replied. But I'm tired, Nathan. I'm tired of pretending. The car picked up speed. Nathan, she said, trying to keep her voice calm, why are we going so fast? He didn't answer. Instead, he said, so you've been collecting things, huh? Saving messages. Taking pictures. Planning to ruin my life. Alyssa felt her stomach twist. I was protecting myself. Nathan laughed, not with joy, but like something inside him had cracked. You think Jeremy's on your side? That's funny. Alyssa looked at him sharply. What do you mean? I mean, Nathan said, he talks too much. She stared at him, eyes wide. What did you do? Nathan didn't answer. He just smirked and pressed harder on the gas. The trees were flying past now. The road was narrowing. There were no other cars in sight. I told you I just wanted to talk, he said. I thought maybe we could fix things. Maybe you'd remember who I was. Alyssa swallowed hard. You're not the man I married. He looked at her now. Full on. His eyes were cold. And you're not the girl I fell in love with. The moment stretched too long. Then Alyssa slowly reached for her phone in her pocket. Nathan saw. Quick as lightning, he reached over and snatched it from her hand. With one sharp move, he rolled down the window and threw it out. No. Alyssa shouted, but it was already gone. What is wrong with you? She screamed. Nathan didn't answer. He locked the doors. Every click sounded like a gunshot to her ears. Then he looked at her, one hand still on the wheel. You said you wanted to leave me, he said. I still do, she whispered. He shook his head slowly. Not anymore. The speedometer crept up. 60. 70. 80. Alyssa's heart was pounding now. She could barely breathe. "Nathan, please," she begged. "Slow down." He looked at her one last time. "You're not walking away from me," he said. Then he reached across her body, grabbed the handle of the door, and pulled it open. Alyssa screamed. The wind rushed in. The road outside was a blur of black and orange. Her hair flew in every direction. She grabbed the seat, trying to hold on. But Nathan was stronger. With one violent shove, he pushed her out. Her scream faded into the wind as her body hit the road, rolling, tumbling, slamming hard against the pavement. The SUV kept driving, never stopping, never looking back. Alyssa's body slammed against the asphalt with a brutal thud. The world spun around her, sky, pavement, sky again. Her jacket tore. Her elbows scraped. Her head hit the ground. Then everything went dark. For a few seconds, there was no pain, no sound, just silence, like the whole world had taken a breath and paused. Then her lungs pulled in the air. Sharp, ragged, burning. She gasped and coughed, dust in her mouth, blood on her tongue. Her body was twisted on the side of the road. One shoe is gone. Her vision blurred. Her heart pounded so hard it made her ears ring. She tried to move. Pain exploded through her ribs. She cried out. No one answered. The sun was almost gone now, dipping low behind the trees. The road stretched out empty, like a black ribbon laid out in the middle of nowhere. No cars. No lights. Just her, broken and bleeding. Alyssa blinked, forcing her eyes open. Where was Nathan? Gone. She tried to lift her hand, but couldn't. Her fingers felt like bricks. Her legs wouldn't move. She was alone. On a highway. In the middle of nowhere. Bleeding. "Help," she whispered. "Somebody, please." No answer. Then, faint in the distance, a sound. A low hum. A car. Her heart jumped. She squinted through tears, blood dripping from a cut near her eye. Headlights. A vehicle was coming. She gathered every drop of strength left in her body. She lifted her hand and waved, slow and shaky. The car slowed, then stopped. The door opened, and heavy footsteps rushed toward her. "Oh my God!" a man shouted. "Miss, can you hear me? Are you okay?" Alyssa couldn't speak. Her throat felt crushed. "Don't move," the man said. "Don't try to get up." He knelt beside her. She saw his face, a man in his late 40s, brown skin, kind eyes, wearing a red jacket. "My name is Curtis," he said quickly. "You're gonna be all right. I'm calling 911 now." He took out his phone, dialed fast. "Yeah, I've got a woman on Highway 8, near mile marker 212. She's hurt badly. Looks like she fell from a moving car or something. She's bleeding. Breathing but barely." As he spoke, Alyssa drifted in and out. She heard the words, but they felt far away. Curtis took off his jacket and gently tucked it under her head. "It's okay," he said again, softer now. "You're not alone." Tears rolled down her cheeks. Her lips moved, but no sound came. Curtis leaned in. "What's your name?" he asked. "Alyssa," she whispered. "All right, Alyssa. I'm not going anywhere. Help's on the way." Then she blacked out. 30 minutes later, sirens filled the road. The flashing red and blue lights bounced off the trees. Paramedics rushed toward her. They checked her pulse, put a brace around her neck, lifted her carefully onto a stretcher. "She's got head trauma," one of them said. "Possible internal bleeding. We need to move fast." Curtis stepped back, hands still shaking. One of the police officers, a short woman with a firm voice, approached him. "You found her like this?" "Yes, ma'am," he said. She was lying right there when I drove past. I don't know what happened. But she's not safe. Someone did this. The officer looked at Alyssa's body being loaded into the ambulance. Don't worry, she said. We'll find out who. Curtis nodded. I hope so. He didn't know her. But something in his gut told him this wasn't an accident. Someone tried to erase her. But she was still breathing. Barely. The ER was cold. Bright lights glared overhead. Machines beeped nonstop. Nurses moved fast, speaking in clipped, sharp tones. Alyssa's body was rolled in on a stretcher, pale, bloodied, and barely holding on. She's losing pressure, one nurse shouted. Get me a unit of O-negative now. CT scan on standby. Head trauma, possible skull fracture. Get neuro on the line. They rushed her into trauma room 2. Wires were connected. Tubes inserted. Her dress was cut away. Her shoes, only one of them, was tossed to the side. Doctors hovered like hawks, speaking in terms Alyssa couldn't understand. But inside, somewhere deep, her mind was still fighting. Still holding on. She wasn't ready to die. Not yet. 15 minutes away, in a modest 2-bedroom apartment, Jeremy Crow was washing dishes when his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He let it ring. Then it buzzed again. This time, a voicemail popped up. He clicked it. This is Officer Marlene Jacobs from Jackson PD. We found your number listed as the emergency contact for Alyssa Crow. She's been in a serious incident. She's currently at St. Mary's Medical. Please call us back immediately. Jeremy dropped the dish. No. No, no, no. He fumbled for his keys and ran out the door. Inside St. Mary's, Jeremy stood at the front desk, breathless. I'm here for Alyssa Crow, he said. She's my cousin's wife. The nurse looked up, eyes tired. She's in surgery. The ICU will update you once she's stable. Was it a car crash? Jeremy asked. The nurse looked hesitant. All we know is she was found on the road. Alone. Jeremy stepped back, hands on his head. His chest felt tight. He looked down at his phone, pulled up the app, the one connected to his car's internal camera. The backup camera he'd secretly placed in Nathan's SUV. He had forgotten about it. Never thought he'd need it. But now? Now he needed the truth. He opened the folder labeled Crowcam. Video files loaded. He clicked the most recent one, time-stamped just 2 hours ago. There they were. Nathan behind the wheel. Alyssa beside him. Jeremy pressed play. The audio was clear. Too clear. You're not walking away from me, Nathan said on screen. Then the camera shook. A scream. The door swung open. And Alyssa, his cousin's wife, was gone. Jeremy's heart stopped. He watched it twice. Then a third time. Each time it felt worse. He didn't cry. He didn't scream. He just picked up his phone and called the police. I have proof, he said. Nathan Crow tried to kill his wife. It's all on video. Back at the hospital, Alyssa came out of surgery. Barely stable. A single nurse sat beside her, watching the monitors, waiting for any sign of movement. 4 hours, she didn't wake. But her fingers twitched once. Then again. And a small, slow tear slid down her cheek. Later that night, Detective Marlene Jacobs met Jeremy outside the ICU. He handed her a flash drive. It's all here, he said. She took it. I'll make sure he doesn't get away with it. Jeremy looked through the glass window at Alyssa's still body. She didn't deserve this. Detective Jacobs nodded. No one does. Then she left. As Jeremy sat alone in the hallway, hands clenched, he thought one thing. He tried to silence her. But now, her truth was louder than ever. Nathan Crow sat alone in his garage, drinking straight from a bottle of whiskey. The lights were off. Only the faint orange glow from a street lamp outside spilled through the window. His SUV sat in the driveway, clean, quiet, almost smug in the way it held no visible signs of what had happened hours earlier. He thought she'd be gone by now. He thought the road would take care of it. But now, he wasn't so sure. His phone buzzed. A blocked number. He didn't answer. Then it buzzed again, this time a text. "We know what you did. Sleep tight, Nathan." His hand tightened around the phone. He stood, looked out the window, and cursed under his breath. Then he went to bed, though his sleep never came. Detective Marlene Jacobs sat at her desk, eyes fixed on the video Jeremy had brought her. She watched it again. The SUV. The cold silence. Alyssa's voice. The scream. Then the push. It was all there. No room for misunderstanding. No accident. This was attempted murder. She closed the video and opened her laptop. With a few clicks, she sent a warrant request to the DA's office. Subject: Nathan Crow, domestic violence/attempted homicide. As she hit send, she picked up her radio. Unit 12, this is Detective Jacobs. I need eyes on Nathan Crow's residence in Belhaven Hills. Surveillance only. Do not engage until a warrant is signed. The suspect is likely armed. Possibly unstable. Copy that, the radio replied. She leaned back in her chair, eyes tired but sharp. He thought he could get away with it. Not this time. Jeremy, meanwhile, stood outside Alyssa's ICU room, staring through the glass window. She still hadn't woken up. Machines beeped. Wires ran across her chest, arms, and neck. Her face looked calm, but pale, almost like a stranger's face wearing her skin. He couldn't believe Nathan had done it. Then again, maybe he could. Nathan had always been proud. Cold. The kind of man who smiled for cameras but stared down his own wife like she was nothing. Still, pushing her out of a car? Jeremy's fists clenched. He wanted justice. But more than that, he wanted Nathan to feel what it was like, to be small, powerless, and alone. He looked down at his phone and opened a blank post. Then he paused. Instead of blasting Nathan online, he typed just one thing and saved it in his notes. People like Nathan Crow don't break overnight. They rot slowly. And everyone around them either gets poisoned, or gets smart enough to walk away before it's too late. He looked back at Alyssa. You didn't walk away, he whispered. But you're still breathing. And that's something. At exactly 5:37 a.m., Nathan was jolted awake by a knock on his front door. 3 knocks. Hard. Sharp. He walked to the door in a white t-shirt and boxers, rubbing his eyes. When he opened it, he saw 2 officers standing there in full uniform. Behind them, Detective Jacobs. She stepped forward, badge in hand. Nathan Crow. Yes. You're under arrest for the attempted murder of Alyssa Crow. Nathan blinked. What? Turn around. Hands behind your back. You've got the wrong. You were caught on camera, Mr. Crow. We've seen everything. One of the officers pulled his arms back and clicked the cuffs tight. Nathan's mouth hung open. Where is she? He asked. Alive, Jacobs said. And strong enough to make sure you never see daylight again. As they walked him toward the patrol car, neighbors peeked through blinds. Phones recorded quietly from porches. Nathan Crow, once the polished man with a nice house and perfect lawn, was now the man in handcuffs. A coward in plain sight. And the world was finally watching. Nathan Crow sat in a steel chair, staring at the gray table in front of him. The walls of the interrogation room were bare. No windows. Just 4 walls, a ticking clock, and a silence so loud it made his ears ring. His hands were cuffed in front of him. His white t-shirt was wrinkled. He hadn't shaved. His face looked different now, not angry, not proud, just tired. Detective Marlene Jacobs entered the room holding a thin folder. She didn't sit right away. She just looked at him. Nathan shifted in his seat. "Look," he said, "I don't know what my cousin told you." Jacobs raised her hand. "Save it." She set the folder down, opened it, and pulled out a photo. It was a still image from the video. Alyssa's face, right before he pushed her. Fear. Betrayal. Pure terror. Jacobs slid it across the table. Nathan didn't touch it. But he didn't look away either. "Do you know what this is?" Jacobs asked. He said nothing. "It's the moment before you pushed your wife out of a moving car. It's the last second before her skull hits the pavement. The moment she almost died." Nathan stayed quiet. Jacobs leaned forward. "We have the video, Nathan. We have the audio. Your cousin gave us everything." Nathan's jaw clenched. "He set me up." Jacobs raised an eyebrow. "Oh, so you admit it happened?" He went still. "I want a lawyer," he said. She nodded slowly. "You'll get one. But just so you know, this isn't going away. This isn't going to disappear behind a settlement or a fake apology. You crossed a line that can't be undone." She gathered the photo and stood up. As she walked to the door, Nathan said, "Is she alive?" Jacobs turned. "Barely," she said. "But if she wakes up, your nightmare really begins." Back at St. Mary's ICU, Alyssa's room was filled with soft beeping and quiet whispers. A young nurse named Lauren sat beside her bed, chart in hand. She had been checking vitals every hour, watching for any sign of movement. At 6:15 a.m., Alyssa's eyelids fluttered. Lauren leaned forward. "Alyssa." No response. Then, slowly, Alyssa's eyes opened halfway. They were glassy and weak, but open. Lauren stood quickly and pressed the call button. "She's waking up," she shouted into the hallway. "We need the doctor." Alyssa blinked. Her lips moved slightly, but no sound came out. Lauren leaned close again. "You're safe. You're in the hospital. You've been through something terrible. But you made it." A tear slipped from Alyssa's eye. It was the first sign of life she'd shown in days. Jeremy was down the hallway, seated with a cup of coffee in his hand, when a nurse ran past him. He stood up fast. "Is she okay?" "She's waking up," the nurse said with a small smile. Jeremy dropped the cup right there on the floor. He rushed down the hallway, turned the corner, and looked through the glass. Alyssa's eyes were open. She saw him. And for the first time in days, in a moment filled with pain, wires, and bruises, she tried to smile. She couldn't move her lips all the way. But it was there. Jeremy opened the door slowly. "Hey," he said, his voice cracking. Her hand twitched. She lifted 2 fingers weakly. He stepped to her bedside and gently took her hand. "You don't have to say anything," he whispered. "I just want you to know, he's not free. They got him." Her eyes blinked once. He nodded. "And I'm not leaving your side. Not now. Not ever." As machines beeped softly and sunlight broke through the hospital blinds, a small kind of victory settled in the room. She was alive. And her silence had finally been broken, by truth, by video, and by the one person who hadn't walked away. Alyssa lay still in her hospital bed. The painkillers dulled the sharp edges, but not the memories. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw it again, the open car door. Nathan's hand, the way the wind swallowed her scream. The blur of the road as her body hit it. She hadn't spoken since waking up. But her mind was awake. Awake and racing. Jeremy sat beside her, watching her breathe. He hadn't shaved in 2 days. His eyes were tired but steady. "You don't have to talk," he said gently. "I just need you to listen for a minute." Alyssa's eyes slowly turned to him. He took a deep breath. I know everything now. The whole drive. The argument. The moment he grabbed the door. It's all on camera. She blinked. I installed a camera in his car last month. I had a feeling. After what he did to you. I'm glad I did. Alyssa's fingers twitched against the bedsheet. Jeremy leaned closer. The police have the footage. Nathan's arrested. He's being charged. Still, she didn't speak. But her face, even bruised and fragile, held something new now. Relief. But also, sorrow. Jeremy sat back in the chair. You fought hard. And you're still here. That means something. A nurse walked in and adjusted her for. I'll give you 2 minutes, she said softly, before stepping out. The room fell quiet again. Jeremy looked down. I used to think Nathan was just mean. Controlling. But I never thought he'd. He couldn't even finish the sentence. He looked at Alyssa. I should have warned you sooner. Her lips parted slightly. A hoarse, broken whisper slipped out. It's not. It's your fault. Jeremy looked up, startled. Tears filled his eyes. You remember everything? Alyssa gave the faintest nod. Her voice was raw and dry, but real. He pushed me. Jeremy gripped her hand gently. I know. And I swear to you, he's not getting away with it. Alyssa stared at the ceiling. For so long, she had been quiet. She'd accepted the lies, the cheating, the shouting. But this time, she had almost died. And now everyone knows the truth. Later that evening, Detective Jacobs returned to the hospital. She knocked gently before entering. Jeremy stood when she came in. Miss Crow, Jacobs said. I'm glad to see you awake. Alyssa gave a small nod. We're moving fast on the case, Jacobs continued. Nathan has been officially charged with attempted murder, domestic violence, and evidence tampering. The judge denied bail. Jeremy grinned. Good. Jacobs looked at Alyssa. You're strong. Stronger than you should have to be. But your testimony is going to be important, if and when you're ready. Alyssa whispered, I'll do it. Jacobs nodded. Thank you. She left a folder on the side table, her card on top. If you remember anything else, call me. As the detective left, Alyssa stared at the ceiling again, blinking slowly. She whispered one more thing, not to Jeremy, not to the nurse, but maybe to herself. He said I'd never walk away. But she had. Barely breathing, bones broken. She still had walked away from the man who thought she never could. 3 days passed. Alyssa hadn't left the bed. Not because she didn't want to, but because her legs couldn't carry her yet. Her ribs ached. Her right wrist was in a cast. Her head still throbbed from the trauma. Bruises covered her shoulder and hip. But her heart? Her heart was louder than all of it. Jeremy brought her tea every morning. Sat by her side. Told her things like, you don't have to prove anything, and you're not alone in this. But Alyssa was quiet. Not because she didn't believe him, but because she knew this was her battle to walk out of. Literally. She hadn't stood since the day Nathan pushed her out of the car. Until now. The nurse was adjusting her for when Alyssa whispered, I want to try. The nurse turned. Try what? Walking. The nurse blinked. That's a big step. I know. I'll call the physical therapist. Alyssa shook her head. No. Just you. And Jeremy. The nurse hesitated. Okay, but I need to be right beside you. Jeremy came in moments later, holding a book. Alyssa, what? I'm getting up, she said, her voice firmer than before. Jeremy put the book down. You sure? She nodded once. The nurse unhooked the cords and helped swing her legs over the side of the bed. Her toes touched the cold floor. She gritted her teeth. Then slowly, with Jeremy on one side and the nurse on the other, she stood. Her legs trembled. Her knees buckled slightly. But she didn't fall. Her jaw tightened. She took one step. Then another. She made it 3 full steps before the pain won. But that was enough. She turned and sat back down, breathing hard, tears stinging her eyes. Jeremy knelt in front of her. "That was everything," he said. "You did that." She nodded, her chest rising and falling. Every inch of movement had hurt, but it felt good. Because now, she was standing in the same world that had tried to bury her. And that meant Nathan didn't win. That night, the TV in her hospital room played the local news on low volume. Jackson man behind bars tonight, accused of pushing his wife out of a moving vehicle. Graphic footage released by police shows the moment before the fall. Jeremy muted it. But Alyssa had already seen the screen. The anchor's voice still rang in her head. She touched the gauze on her head, as if to remind herself it was real. Not a dream. Not a nightmare. A real man tried to kill her. And now the world knows. Jeremy looked at her. "You okay?" She nodded slowly. "I want to talk." He sat up straight. "Talk about what?" Alyssa stared at the muted TV screen. Nathan's mugshot filled the frame. "Court," she said. "I want to face him." Jeremy hesitated. "You sure?" "He needs to see what he can't break." Jeremy nodded. "Then I'll be right beside you." Down the hallway, outside the room, Detective Jacobs stood silently with a cup of coffee in her hand. She had come to check on Alyssa, but stopped when she heard the words through the cracked door. "He needs to see what he can't break." Jacobs smiled slightly, because those were the words of a woman who had already won. The courtroom was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of silence that made your chest feel heavy, like the air itself was listening. Alyssa sat at the front with Jeremy beside her. Her body still ached. Her arm was still wrapped in bandages. But her back was straight, and her eyes didn't flinch. She hadn't seen Nathan since the night he pushed her. Not in person. Not face to face. Now he sat just 20 feet away, behind the defense table, dressed in a gray suit that didn't fit right and a face that didn't know how to look sorry. He didn't look at her. Not once. But she looked at him. And in that look, she said everything she hadn't said when she was bleeding on the roadside. The judge entered. "All rise." Everyone stood. Then the trial began. This wasn't the full case. Not yet. This was the hearing. The part where they decide if there's enough evidence to go forward. But for Alyssa, it was more than legal. It was spiritual. Emotional. It was her chance to be seen. To be believed. Detective Jacobs was the first to speak. She played the dashcam footage. The entire room watched. No one moved. No one coughed. Every word Nathan said, every shake of Alyssa's voice, the scream, the open door, the fall. All of it played in full color and full sound. Alyssa didn't blink once. She didn't look away. And when the video ended, there was nothing but silence. Even Nathan had gone still. The judge cleared her throat. "Mrs. Crow, are you able to testify?" Alyssa stood. Her legs wobbled slightly, but she didn't fall. She was helped to the stand, and after placing her hand on the Bible, she sat down and faced the room. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was clear. "I remember everything," she said. "From the moment we left the house to the moment he opened the door and threw me out." Gasps moved through the room. I begged him to stop. I told him I didn't feel safe. And he looked me right in the eyes and said, "You're not walking away from me." She looked at Nathan. Her gaze was sharp, unforgiving. "That wasn't just a sentence," she said. "That was a threat." And then he followed through. The judge leaned forward. Why do you believe he wanted to hurt you? Alyssa answered without hesitation. Because he lost control. And men like Nathan, they don't handle losing well. So instead of letting me walk away, he tried to erase me. Jeremy sat behind her, fists clenched, heart pounding. The judge nodded slowly. Thank you, Mrs. Crow. Alyssa stepped down. Every footstep echoed louder than the last. Because every step was something Nathan thought she'd never take again. And yet, here she was. Standing. Speaking. Alive. The judge turned to Nathan's lawyer. Do you have anything to say? The man stood. Your Honor, we're requesting bail. Denied, the judge said immediately. This case will proceed to trial. The gavel hit the desk. Court is adjourned. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered like birds. Alyssa and Jeremy stepped out into the flashing lights and cameras. Someone shouted, Alyssa, do you have anything to say to women in abusive relationships? She paused. Then she said, don't wait for someone to save you. Start walking, even if it hurts. The cameras clicked. The voices rose. But Alyssa kept walking. Because this time, the world wasn't watching a victim. It was watching a survivor. The courtroom was behind her now, but the weight of it lingered like smoke on her clothes. Alyssa lay awake in her hospital bed 2 nights later, unable to sleep. The doctor said she could be discharged soon, maybe in 3 days, but the thought of going home made her stomach twist. Not because she feared being alone, but because home wasn't what it used to be. Every room in that house whispered his voice. The walls had seen things. The bedroom had held her tears. And that driveway, the same one she stepped into before that car ride, had almost been her final footprint. Jeremy had offered to let her stay at his place for a while. She had said yes. Not because she was weak, but because healing didn't mean going back to the fire. Sometimes healing meant finding a new place to breathe. She turned her head toward the window. The moon outside was full and bright, lighting up the small tree outside her room. She thought about her old self, the version of Alyssa that wore smiles even when her heart was sore, who cleaned up after Nathan and made excuses for his silence, who waited by the window wondering where he was at 11 p.m. That Alyssa was gone. She wasn't sure what came next. But she knew who she wasn't anymore. The next morning, a volunteer came in with a small cart filled with donated books. Morning, the woman said kindly. Want something to read? Alyssa's voice was still soft. Sure. The woman handed her a book with a blue cover. A quiet novel about a woman who walks away from a broken marriage to find herself again. Alyssa gave a half smile. Fitting, the woman said. Alyssa nodded. Very. As the woman wheeled the cart away, Alyssa opened the first page and let the words carry her. For once, she wasn't thinking about what he did to her. She was thinking about what she would do next. Jeremy came by around noon, holding a bag of her favorite snacks. Hospital popcorn sucks, he said with a grin. Alyssa laughed, just a small cracked sound, but it was the first real one in weeks. He sat beside her and took out a small envelope. What's that? She asked. It came in the mail, he said. To my place. From your old friend in Chicago. She saw you on the news. Alyssa opened it with shaking hands. Inside was a letter. It read, You're stronger than you think, Alyssa. I remember how you helped me when I had no one. I remember how you made me believe I was worth something. Now it's your turn. Whatever happens next, don't forget you matter. Alyssa closed the letter gently. She didn't cry. But her silence said everything. That night, she looked at herself in the small hospital mirror. Black woman. Strong. Bruised, yes. But beautiful. Alive. She touched the side of her face where the bruising had faded slightly. Then she said it out loud, almost as if to test the sound. I'm not his. Not anymore. She was no longer someone's wife. She was her own woman. And that truth felt heavy. But holy. The morning was gray. The sky hung low, and the clouds looked like they could crack open at any moment. Alyssa stepped out of the hospital wearing a dark sweater, jeans, and flat shoes. Jeremy stood beside her, holding the discharge papers and a small overnight bag. "Are you ready?" he asked. Alyssa nodded. Her body still ached in places she didn't talk about. But her face was calm. "Where are we going first?" she asked. "My place," Jeremy said. "You need rest." "No," she replied. "I need a haircut." He looked at her, confused. She repeated it, firmer this time. "I want my hair cut today." Jeremy didn't argue. He just nodded. The salon was quiet, nearly empty. A soft jazz tune played from a speaker in the corner. The stylist, a middle-aged woman with tired eyes and gentle hands, welcomed Alyssa like she'd known her for years. No questions, no pity, just care. Alyssa sat in the chair and looked at herself in the mirror. The bruises were fading, but still visible. There was a scar along her jawline. She traced it with her finger. Then she looked at the stylist. "Take it all off." The woman blinked. All of it." "Are you sure?" Alyssa nodded once. "I'm starting over." The first snip of scissors was loud. By the end, the mirror showed a different woman. Short curls, strong eyes, a face that had been through hell, and somehow still looked holy. Jeremy smiled from the waiting area. "You look like you own the world." She didn't smile. But her reflection did. Back at Jeremy's place, Alyssa lay on the couch, watching the local news again. Nathan's face came on the screen. Former city contractor, Nathan Crow, expected to stand trial this Friday. Sources say victim Alyssa Crow will take the stand for final testimony. The case has gained national attention as footage of the incident continues to circulate online. She muted the TV. There it was again, victim Alyssa Crow. She didn't like that title. Not because it was wrong, but because it felt too small. She wasn't just a victim. She was a witness. A fighter. A reminder. Jeremy walked in holding 2 mugs of tea. "I still can't believe it's everywhere." "I can," Alyssa said. "Women like me don't usually make it out. So when one of us does, the world looks twice." Jeremy sat down across from her. "Are you scared of the court?" She paused. "Yes," she said. "But I'm more tired than scared. Tired of being quiet. Tired of looking down. Tired of feeling like I need permission to survive." Jeremy nodded slowly. Alyssa sipped her tea. "I'm not walking in that courtroom for revenge," she added. "I'm walking in to remind him. I lived. That's it." Jeremy leaned back. "That's more than enough." Later that night, Alyssa stood in the bathroom, staring at her new reflection under bright lights. She pulled out her small notebook, the one she kept hidden even from herself. She flipped past blank pages until she found the one she'd written in pencil 3 days ago. "If I get out of this, I'll never lie to myself again." She read it again. Then she grabbed a pen. And under it she wrote, "I didn't just get out. I'm walking back in, and I'm not afraid." The courtroom was packed. Not just with lawyers and press, but people, strangers, women, men, advocates, survivors. Some came just to support. Some came to see if the system would finally get it right. Alyssa sat on the witness bench. This time, she wasn't weak. She wasn't shaking. She wore a simple black dress and low heels. Her hair was short now. Her scar showed clearly, and she didn't hide it. Across from her, Nathan Crow sat at the defense table in a pale suit that no longer fit his pride. His eyes were hollow. For the first time, he looked at her. She didn't flinch. The prosecutor stood. Mrs. Crow, do you remember the moment he pushed you? Alyssa leaned into the mic. Yes. Every part. Can you describe what you felt in that moment? She nodded. I wasn't surprised. I was hurt, but not shocked. Because I think a part of me always knew he was capable of it. But what I didn't expect was that I'd survive. Murmurs filled the gallery. Alyssa kept going. I've spent years pretending. Smiling when I was dying inside. Apologizing for things that weren't my fault. But that night, when he opened that door and pushed me out, he gave me something without meaning to. What was that? The prosecutor asked. A second life. The room went silent. I hit that road thinking it was the end, she said. But it was the beginning. Because I got back up. I spoke up. And now I'm here. Not as his wife. Not as his victim. But as for myself. The prosecutor nodded. No more questions. The defense attorney stood and approached. He tried to soften his tone. Mrs. Crow, would you say my client has ever physically harmed you before this incident? No, Alyssa said calmly. But abuse doesn't always start with bruises. The lawyer blinked. Would you agree that perhaps this was a moment of anger? That he may not have meant to? She cut in. He meant it. The lawyer hesitated. You can't accidentally open a door on the highway, she said. You can't accidentally grab someone and throw them into the road. The lawyer cleared his throat. No further questions. Hours later, the jury filed in. The judge asked for the verdict. A pin could have dropped in that silence. The forewoman stood. We, the jury, find the defendant, Nathan Crow, guilty on all counts. Gasps. Tears. Applause from the back. Nathan didn't move. He just stared ahead, lips pressed into a flat line. The judge didn't wait. Mr. Crow, you are sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. That was it. A gavel hit the bench. Justice. Outside, Alyssa stepped into the sunlight. Reporters shouted questions. Cameras flashed. She didn't stop. But just before she got into Jeremy's car, one woman called out, "Do you have anything to say to other women going through this?" Alyssa paused, turned back, then said, loud and clear, "If your silence is the only thing keeping you safe, it's time to make noise." She got into the car, shut the door, and exhaled. Not relief. Not victory. Just peace. Real peace. 3 months later, Alyssa sat at a small bookstore in downtown Jackson, signing copies of her new book. The title read, "Thrown but Not Broken, A True Story of Survival." Women lined up to meet her. Some hugged her. Some just cried. One woman, with fresh bruises on her wrist, stepped forward and whispered, "You saved me." Alyssa took her hand. "No," she said softly. "You're saving yourself. I'm just proof it's possible." And as she sat there, pen in hand, smile gentle, heart steady, it was clear. Nathan thought pushing her out of a car would end her story. But all it did was start a new one. This is the end of the story. I believe you learn 1 or 2 things. Please, if you have not subscribed, kindly do so, you are so precious to me. For more engaging stories, check the video on the screen. You don't want to miss this particular one.